But let's first talk about how to convince the seller that you're the best. And in fact, what I'm going to show you is how you can convince that seller that they should list with you even if you didn't have the Y program. So in most cases, you won't even have to go to step number 2. Now, you always will go to step number 2 because the people called you because they want to hear about step number 2. What is step number 2? The Y program. But you won't even have to. People will be ready to list before you even get there. Wouldn't you like that? Okay, let's talk about it. Well, it starts by being prepared. It starts by being prepared for the listing. How do we get prepared for a listing appointment? Way number 1, we prepare comps that talk. We prepare comps that talk. Now, there's a difference between comps that talk and comps. Of course, we know what comps are. That is a list of homes that have sold and homes that are for sale in a particular area. What I'm suggesting to you that you do is that you prepare your comparables in a way that speak to the seller and in and of themselves convince the seller as to the price range that they ought to list. Now you can do that by looking at what's for sale and what's sold and looking at statistics like what's expired, how high it's been listed, what sold, how quickly it sold, relate what sold and how quickly it sold to the price those homes were listed for. Look at this with a little more intensity, with a little more originality. Look at the comps and make those comps say what you want to say. You know the old theory about you can make numbers say anything. Well, within reason, you can take comps and you can make them talk to the seller so that it's not you telling the seller they ought to price their home here. It's the facts telling the seller, and that's so much more impressive. That's step 1. Step number 2, you must have a personal presentation brochure. What's that? Well, what that is that's you. You must have a glorious, full-color, incredibly well-written, refined, re-refined, re-refined, and re-refined brochure that if somebody were to look at it and they were thinking about listing with you, they'd look at it and they'd say, wow, she's pretty impressive. It can have anything and everything on it that's good and impressive about you. Not just your experience or background in real estate. If you've got great experience, if you've got a great track record, that should be in there. But everything dating back to, if you want, when you were a kid. I mean, your education, if you won awards, if you were editor of this, president of that, what you're doing in the community now, your friends, your contacts, anything at all that you can creatively put together to say, and it should have your picture on it for sure, in full color, on glossy stock, in a glorious presentation format, here I am. That if the average seller looked at it, they'd say, wow, that is one impressive person. I want him on my team. I want him promoting my home. Now, some people can do a more impressive brochure than others because some people have more experience, better track record in the business, and perhaps have, accomplished more things that might sound impressive in their life than others. But everybody has done good things. Everybody. I've never met a person that couldn't say in a personal presentation brochure things about themselves that would be very impressive. And the point is that so few realtors have a really good one, or even have one at all, that by having one that puts your best foot forward in writing, in glorious format, you're a big step up on everyone else. You've got to have that. You're foolish to go out and spend all the time and effort you spend in this business and not have an incredible personal presentation brochure that makes you seem and appear more professional and more qualified than anyone else in the market. That's step number 2. Step number 3, you must have and carry with you personal references. What do I mean by that? I mean, when you go into a seller, you want to be able to give a seller a list of past clients, past customers, and other people you know that they might be impressed with in the community, and say, I am everything I say I am. Here's a list of my past sellers, past buyers, my current sellers, other people in the community. Nice brochure, not just some typed list. Update it every few months. Give any of these people a call, and they'll tell you, I'm the person that will get the job done for you better than anyone else. Now, included on that list, or as a supplement to it, because it'll always be updated, this little supplement will be updated frequently, should be a list of all your current sellers, where you say to the seller you're presenting to, I've not only included all my past people that are happy with me, here is a list of every seller that I have listed right now. Afraid to do that, aren't you? Say, whoa, I don't know if I want to do that. Well, if you're concerned, I used to think to myself, boy, I wonder if I want to do that. Whenever I caught myself thinking, do I want to put this person on my list? Don't I just want to leave this one off? You know what that keyed my mind? What am I doing wrong? If there's a person here I'd be afraid to have on the list that's one of my current sellers, I better get my tail out there, talk to that person, and start doing more of what they want me to do so that they're happy with me, or get them off my list. I don't want people listed with me that aren't thrilled with me. And so what could be more impressive than going into a seller and saying to him, here's a bunch of references, people and past clients and homes I've sold, but here's a list of all my current sellers, and you call each and every one of them, and even though their homes aren't sold yet, even though I haven't finished my job with them yet, each and every one of them would tell you everything I said I'd do, I did do, I am doing right now, and that they're pleased as punch. They're pleased as punch that they listed with me. You can't find anything to give you more credibility than that, where they can pick up the phone and call those sellers. Most of the time they won't even do it, but where they can pick up the phone and call those sellers and have that be said. And of course, that takes me to getting these things, getting sellers to do this, getting them to agree to have their names on the list. I just tell every seller when I listed their home, I'd like to put you on this same list, and the benefit to you is that if you're on the list, I'm going to be darn sure I do an incredible job so you're happy with me all the time. I say it's to your benefit to be on the list. But I would ask you in all fairness, if I put you on this list, if at any time during the listing you're not 100% thrilled with me and don't feel you can say these good things about me, do me a favor and tell me first, right away, quick, so I can come over and make things right. They always said, great. I said, that's kind of, is that a deal? They'd say, sure, that's a deal. So that is step number 3, is to have this seller reference list. And that is a critical one. Step number 4 is to learn more about the neighborhood than anyone else. You want to really impress these sellers? Go in and have taken the time to learn some things about their neighborhood, their area, that other realtors don't know, and then impress them with it. I used to find when I'd do this, when I'd go in and talk to sellers and know the owner of a local business over here, now, maybe I'd just an hour before gone in and shook his hand and gotten to know him. Knew the name of the principal and 3 or 4 of the teachers at the school. And maybe 20 minutes before on my car phone, I'd called the school, said, now what's the name of the principal and what's, 4 teachers. Hopefully I knew this stuff. Hopefully I was working in areas that I knew this already. But I'd always make it a point, if I didn't, to find out things that most other realtors wouldn't know. And to make sure, of course, as you'll see during the listing presentation, that I mentioned those things to impress that seller that I was truly more knowledgeable about their neighborhood than anyone else. That's step number 4. Step number 5. I never went into a listing appointment without, in my mind, having decided on 3 reasons that I could give the seller why I was more qualified to handle the sale of their home than anyone else. Now, I want to repeat that once again. I wouldn't go into a listing appointment unless I was prepared and had already figured out what the 3 were, unless I was prepared with 3 reasons that I could give the seller why I and I alone, not my company, not any program I had, but why I and I alone was more qualified to sell their home than any other realtor in the market. Now, how powerful is that? And I used to say to sellers when I went in, as you'll see in a minute, I used to say to them as part of my listing presentation, before I had anything to do with the Y program, I used to say, I'm so glad you called me. Glad for me and glad for you. Because I and I alone am the single most qualified realtor in the entire market to handle the sale of your particular home. And there are 3 reasons why. Now, what do you think most sellers would say? Well, what are they? What are they? Yeah. So if you're going to say it, do be prepared with the 3 reasons. They say, well, why? I say, well, I'll tell you what, and I'll tell you in a half an hour. Let me be prepared. But that's another way that you want to be prepared.